I spent 8 years drunk before realizing other families don't live this way. My mom started giving me wine with dinner when I was 10. Just a little bit, she'd say, handing me a glass that was maybe a quarter full. It helps you relax after a long day at school. My dad would pour himself whiskey, and my older sister Emma would get wine too. And we'd all sit at the table in this comfortable haze while mom talked about her day. By the time I was 12, I was drinking every single night, sometimes at lunch on weekends too. Mom always had a bottle ready, always encouraged me to finish my glass. If I said I didn't want any, she'd get this tight look on her face and say I seemed stressed, that I needed to unwind. The weird thing is, I thought this was completely normal. I figured every family did this. Every kid drank with their parents. It never occurred to me to question it. Looking back now, there were so many things I should have noticed, like how our house had 3 rooms that stayed locked all the time. The spare bedroom on the 2nd floor, the office in the basement, and the storage room off the garage. I asked about them once when I was 13, and Dad just said they were full of boring adult stuff and changed the subject. Or how people would show up at odd hours. I'd be in my room at 11 at night, fuzzy and sleepy from the wine, and hear the doorbell. Voices in the hallway. The sound of the garage door opening and closing. When I asked who was visiting so late, Mom would say it was just a neighbor dropping something off. The phone rang constantly too. Mom or Dad would answer it, talk in quiet voices, then disappear into one of those locked rooms for 20 minutes. Emma seemed to notice this stuff too, but whenever I brought it up, she'd just shrug and pour herself more wine. I failed 8th grade because I couldn't concentrate. The school called home about my grades and my mom cried, but then gave me extra wine that night to help me cope with the disappointment. The counselor wanted to meet with my parents, but they kept canceling, saying they were too busy with work. When I was 15, I spent the night at my friend Jake's house for the first time. His parents made dinner, and we all sat down to eat, and I kept waiting for them to bring out the wine, but they just served water and juice. Jake and his little brother drank Coke. I asked where the alcohol was, and Jake's mom laughed like I'd made a joke. She said they didn't drink on weeknights. I stared at her, confused, trying to figure out if she was serious. "You don't give Jake wine with dinner?" I asked. The laughter stopped. Jake's parents exchanged a look I didn't understand. His mom asked very carefully if my parents gave me alcohol regularly. I said of course, every night since I was 10. Didn't everyone do that? Jake's dad left the table and made a phone call in the other room. His mom sat down next to me and asked questions in this gentle voice that made my stomach hurt. How much did I drink? How often? Did my parents ever refuse to let me skip it? I spent 3 days at Jake's house, and by the 2nd day without any wine, my hands were shaking. I had headaches. I felt sick and anxious. Jake's mom took me to a doctor who said I was going through withdrawal. He asked if my parents were home and if he could talk to them. I gave him our number and he called. Mom answered and he explained that I was at his office, that I was showing signs of alcohol dependence. There was a long silence. Then my mom's voice got really cold and she said she'd be right there to pick me up. When Mom arrived, she didn't take me home. She drove to a gas station and we sat in the parking lot while she stared straight ahead. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tight her knuckles were white. She said I'd made a serious mistake, that I'd told people things I had no business sharing, that there were consequences for talking about family business with outsiders. When I asked what she meant, she finally looked at me, and that's when I saw what was really in those locked rooms. The rest of the story is linked below or on my channel. Mom's eyes are different. That's the first thing I notice. Her pupils are tiny pinpoints, and there's something cold and calculating in her gaze that I've never seen before. Or maybe I have, but the wine always blurred the edges. Those rooms, she says, her voice steady and mechanical, contain our family business. Your father and I manufacture prescription medications. I stare at her, trying to process what she's saying. You mean like illegal drugs? We provide a service, she says, her fingers still white-knuckled on the steering wheel. People need medication they can't afford through normal channels. We help them. We've been doing it for decades, since before you were born. My mind races back to all those late-night visitors, the constant phone calls, the locked rooms. The pieces click into place with sickening clarity. The wine, I say, my voice barely a whisper. You kept us drunk so we wouldn't notice. Mom's jaw tightens. We kept you comfortable, protected. You never wanted for anything. You made me an alcoholic. My voice cracks on the last word. She flinches like I've slapped her, then her expression hardens. You need to listen very carefully. Jake's parents have already called Child Protective Services. They're probably talking to the police right now too. My stomach drops. How do you know that? How do you know that 20 bin tenses? Because that's what people like them do, she snaps. They think they know better than everyone else. They think they're saving you. She turns to face me fully now, and the intensity in her eyes makes me shrink back against the passenger door. When we get home, you're going to pack a bag. Just essentials. Then you, me, your father, and Emma are going to visit your grandmother in Arizona for a while. But I have school. This isn't a discussion, she shouts, making me jump. Then more controlled. We need to leave before they come for you. Before they tear our family apart. I think about the doctor's words. Alcohol dependence. The shakes in my hands. The headaches. The nausea without wine. I think about Jake's mom's gentle questions and how different she was from my own mother. I don't want to go, I say quietly. Mom's face transforms into something I barely recognize. You don't have a choice. And when the authorities come asking questions, you and Emma will say nothing about the rooms or the business. Nothing about the wine. You'll say we're normal parents who occasionally let you have a sip at special dinners. That's it. Do you understand? I don't answer. My heart is hammering so hard I can feel it in my throat. Do you understand? She repeats, her voice razor sharp. I nod, not trusting myself to speak. She starts the car and pulls out of the gas station parking lot, driving faster than usual toward home. When we arrive, the house is chaos. Dad is rushing between the locked rooms with armfuls of papers. Emma sits on the couch, her face tear-streaked and confused. She looks up when I enter, relief washing over her features. Where have you been? She asks, jumping up to hug me. She smells like wine and fear. Jake's house. I mumble against her shoulder. Dad emerges from the basement, his face grim. We need to move faster, he tells Mom. Johnson called. They've already filed the report. Mom nods, pushing me toward the stairs. Pack, now, both of you. Emma grabs my arm. What's happening? Before I can answer, the doorbell rings. Everyone freezes. Dad looks at Mom, panic evident in his eyes. Don't answer it, he whispers. The doorbell rings again, followed by a firm knock. Police department, a male voice calls through the door. We need to speak with the homeowners. Dad rushes back toward the basement, but Mom grabs his arm. It's too late, she hisses. If we run now, it's worse. She straightens her shirt, smooths her hair, and and walks to the door with a composure that's terrifying in its suddenness. Emma and I stand rooted to the spot as Mom opens the door. Two police officers stand on our porch, along with a woman in business casual clothing holding a folder. Mrs. Davis? The female officer asks. Yes, Mom says, her voice perfectly normal, as if she hadn't just been planning our escape minutes ago. I'm Officer Reynolds, this is Officer Patel, and this is Miss Garcia from Child Protective Services. We'd like to speak with you regarding concerns about your children's welfare. What concerns? Mom asks, sounding genuinely confused. My children are perfectly fine. Miss Garcia steps forward. We've received a report that you've been providing alcohol to your minor children on a regular basis, and that your 15-year-old is showing signs of alcohol dependency and withdrawal. Mom laughs, the sound brittle and false. That's ridiculous. Who told you such a thing? Ma'am, we need to come in and speak with your children, Officer Patel says firmly. Dad appears behind Mom. Do you have a warrant? Sir, this is a welfare check. If you refuse to cooperate, we'll have no choice but to. It's fine, Mom interrupts, shooting Dad a warning look. Please, come in. This is all a misunderstanding. As they enter, Mom turns to Emma and me, her eyes conveying a clear message. Say nothing. But as Miss Garcia approaches us, her kind eyes meeting mine, I feel something inside me crack. The weight of 8 years of wine and secrets and locked doors suddenly feels too heavy to carry anymore. Are you all right? She asks me quietly. I look at Mom, whose face is a mask of pleasant concern, hiding barely contained rage. I look at Dad, who's watching the officers warily as they glance around our home. I look at Emma, who seems torn between loyalty and relief, and for the first time in my life, I decide to tell the truth. No, I say, my voice stronger than I expected. I'm not all right, and I need help. Miss Garcia's hand is gentle on my shoulder as she guides me toward the unmarked car. Behind us, Emma walks silently with Officer Reynolds, her eyes red-rimmed and vacant. I look back at our house one last time. Police tape stretches across the front door, and officers in latex gloves carry sealed evidence bags to their vehicles. You're doing the right thing, Miss Garcia says, following my gaze. I know it doesn't feel like it right now. I nod mechanically, but my hands won't stop shaking. It's been almost 12 hours since I told the truth, and the withdrawal symptoms are getting worse. My head pounds with each heartbeat, and there's a constant tremor running through my body that feels like I'm being electrocuted in slow motion. The foster home is a beige two-story in a neighborhood I've never visited. Mrs. Patel, no relation to the officer, she explains with a practiced smile, shows us to a room with twin beds and blank walls. Emma sits on one bed while I take the other, the springs creaking under my weight. Dinner's in an hour, Mrs. Patel says. There are clean towels in the bathroom if you want to shower. When she leaves, Emma finally speaks. Why did you tell them? Her voice is hollow, accusatory. Because it wasn't normal, Em. None of it was normal. It was our life, she whispers. Now what do we have? I don't have an answer. My stomach cramps suddenly, and I double over, a wave of nausea washing through me. Emma watches dispassionately as I struggle to breathe through it. Withdrawal, she says flatly. Mom said this would happen if you went too long without. You knew? I gasp when the pain subsides enough to speak. She looks away. Since I was 14. About the drugs? Emma nods. Dad showed me the operation last year, said I'd be part of it someday. Her hands twist in her lap. I've been helping package pills for months. The revelation hits me like a physical blow. While I was being kept drunk and oblivious, Emma was being groomed to join the family business. I wonder how many other secrets she's been keeping. Did they make you take anything? I ask hesitantly. No, just the wine. She laughs without humor. They needed me functional. The next 3 days blur together in a haze of pain and sickness. The doctor who visits the foster home explains I'm experiencing full alcohol withdrawal, tremors, vomiting, headaches, insomnia. He prescribes medication to help with the symptoms, but nothing stops the bone-deep ache of my body readjusting to sobriety. Emma watches me suffer with a strange mix of sympathy and resentment. She's having an easier time. She drank less than me, Miss Garcia explains during one of our daily interviews. On day 4, we're taken to the CPS office downtown. The interview room has soft chairs and colorful paintings, but the recording equipment in the corner reminds me this isn't a friendly chat. I'd like to talk more about the wine, Miss Garcia says, her notepad open on her lap. When did it start? When I was 10, I say, repeating what I told Jake's mom. Mom called it my special drink, just a little at first, but by 12 I was drinking every night. And you never questioned this? I stare at my hands. It was just normal. Mom said it was European-style parenting, that in France, kids drink wine all the time. Miss Garcia makes a note. And the locked rooms in your house? 3 of them, one in the basement, one upstairs, and Dad's office. I wasn't allowed near any of them. Did you ever try to get in? I shake my head. The doors had keypad locks, and I hesitate, remembering. Once when I was little, I tried to peek through the basement keyhole. Dad caught me and the memory surfaces with unexpected clarity. He grabbed my arm so hard it bruised, said if I ever tried again, there would be serious consequences. Miss Garcia's expression doesn't change, but she writes something down that looks longer than my answer warranted. Emma's interview is separate from mine. When she returns, her eyes are puffy from crying. She doesn't speak to me the rest of the day. That night, the shaking gets so bad I can't hold a glass of water. Mrs. Patel calls someone, and within an hour, I'm being admitted to the hospital. The doctors speak in hushed tones about dehydration and possible seizure risks. They hook me up to an IV and monitor my vitals constantly. Emma is allowed to visit the next day, escorted by Miss Garcia. She sits beside my hospital bed, looking smaller than I've ever seen her. They made me tell them everything, she says quietly. About the business. About how I knew. What did you say? The truth. Her voice cracks. That Mom and Dad have been making counterfeit prescription pills for years. That they have a whole network of dealers. That they kept us isolated so we wouldn't tell anyone. I reach for her hand, surprised when she doesn't pull away. Did they ask about Jake? She nods. I told them he was the first real friend you'd made. That Mom and Dad hated his parents because they asked too many questions. The room falls silent except for the steady beep of my heart monitor. Through the window, I can see a small park across the street, children playing on swings, while their parents watch from nearby benches. Normal families doing normal things. I saw Mom and Dad yesterday, Emma says suddenly. They're in jail waiting for their bail hearing. My heart rate spikes enough that a nurse pokes her head in to check on me. What did they say? I ask when the nurse leaves. Mom said to tell you she's sorry. Emma's expression hardens. Dad said nothing at all. I close my eyes, fighting against a fresh wave of nausea that has nothing to do with withdrawal. Do you believe her? That she's sorry? Emma is quiet for so long, I think she might not answer. Finally, she sighs. I think she's sorry they got caught. The detox takes another week. By the time I'm released, I've missed so much school that Miss Garcia says I'll likely need to repeat the year. Emma and I are moved to a different foster home, this one with 3 other kids and stricter rules. The preliminary hearing for our parents is scheduled for next month. Miss Garcia tells us we'll both need to testify about what happened in that house, the wine, the locked rooms, the years of systematic endangerment disguised as parenting. At night, I still dream of wine, the taste, the warmth, the comfortable numbness. But then I remember the cost 8 years of my life viewed through a haze, the constant sickness, the isolation from anyone who might have helped sooner. Emma sleeps in the bed across from mine, her breathing even and deep. In the dim light from the hallway, I can see the family photo she keeps under her pillow, the 4 of us smiling at some holiday gathering, looking for all the world like a normal, happy family. I wonder what Jake is doing now, if he knows how much his concern changed everything. I wonder if his parents realized they didn't just report child abuse, they saved our lives. Tomorrow is another day of interviews, another doctor's appointment, another step toward whatever normal is supposed to be. My hands still shake sometimes, but less each day. Progress, the doctors call it. I close my eyes and try to sleep without wine for the first time in 8 years. The courthouse is bigger than I expected, all marble and echoing hallways that make my footsteps sound like gunshots. Miss Garcia walks beside me, her hand occasionally touching my shoulder when I slow down or hesitate. Emma trails behind us with another social worker, her face a carefully constructed mask of indifference that doesn't quite hide the trembling of her lower lip. Remember, you just tell the truth, Miss Garcia says as we approach the courtroom doors. The judge just wants to understand what happened in your home. I nod, but my throat feels like I've swallowed sand. It's been 3 weeks since they took us away. 3 weeks of withdrawal symptoms gradually fading into a constant, low-grade anxiety that never quite goes away. 3 weeks of sleeping in a stranger's house and answering endless questions from doctors, social workers, and police officers. The courtroom falls silent as we enter. I spot our parents immediately, sitting at a table with their lawyers. Mom is wearing a conservative blue dress I've never seen before, her hair pulled back in a neat bun that makes her look like a schoolteacher instead of someone who manufactured illegal drugs in our home for years. Dad looks smaller somehow, his shoulders hunched forward in an ill-fitting suit. Mom's eyes find mine, and for a split second, her mask slips. There's something desperate and pleading in her gaze that makes my stomach clench. Then her lawyer whispers something, and she turns away. I testify first. The prosecutor asks gentle questions about the wine, about how it started when I was 10 with just a little in a special cup, then gradually increased until I was drinking every night by 12. I describe the constant fog I lived in, how I thought it was normal because I'd never known anything else. And the locked rooms? The prosecutor asks. Can you tell us about those? There were 3, I say, my voice steadier than I expected. One in the basement, one upstairs, and Dad's office. They all had keypad locks. I wasn't allowed near them. Did you ever see inside any of these rooms? I shake my head. No, but I could smell chemicals sometimes. And there were always people coming to the house late at night. Mom called them business associates. When I described the day at Jake's house, how his mom realized something was wrong, how the doctor diagnosed me with alcohol dependency, Mom's lawyer objects, saying it's hearsay. The judge overrules him. And what happened when your mother picked you up from Jake's house? The prosecutor continues. I swallow hard. She told me about the business, said they manufactured prescription medications. She said Jake's parents had called CPS, and we needed to leave town. She told Emma and me to say nothing about the wine or the locked rooms. Dad's lawyer cross-examines me next, his voice dripping with false sympathy. Isn't it possible you misunderstood what your parents were doing? That perhaps they were running a legitimate pharmaceutical business? No, I say firmly. Mom said people needed medication they couldn't afford through normal channels. That's not legitimate. And the wine, isn't it common in many European cultures for children to have small amounts of wine with meals? I wasn't having small amounts with meals, I reply, feeling a flash of anger. I was drinking full glasses every night until I passed out. The doctor said I was physically dependent on alcohol. When Emma takes the stand, she looks even younger than her 17 years. Her voice shakes as she describes how our parents began grooming her to join the family business last year. Dad showed me the pill press, she says, staring at her hands. He explained how they made exact replicas of prescription medications, oxycodone, Xanax, Adderall. They had special dyes and powders for each one. And did your parents ever explain why they were doing this? The prosecutor asks. Emma nods. Dad said the pharmaceutical companies were criminals, charging people thousands for medicine that cost pennies to make. He said we were providing a service. Her voice breaks. Mom said it was our family legacy, that I should be proud to be part of it. When Emma describes how she helped package pills for months while I remained oblivious, kept compliant with alcohol, Mom covers her face with her hands. Dad just stares straight ahead, his expression unreadable. The evidence presentation is worse. Police photos of the locked rooms show industrial equipment, chemicals, pill presses, and packaging materials. A detective testifies that they found over $300,000 in cash hidden in the walls, and enough raw materials to manufacture thousands of counterfeit pills. Then they show the medical reports, my liver function tests, showing early damage, blood work, confirming alcohol levels consistent with long-term abuse, and psychological evaluations describing the manipulation and isolation Emma and I experienced. Our parents testify last. Mom cries, saying they only wanted to protect us from the harsh realities of the world. We kept them comfortable, she insists. Safe. They never wanted for anything. Including alcohol for a 10-year-old? The prosecutor asks coldly. It was medicinal, Mom says, to help with anxiety. Just like in the old days. Dad's testimony is more calculated. He talks about corrupt pharmaceutical companies, about people who couldn't afford their medications, about providing a necessary service. When asked about giving me wine from such a young age, he shrugs. My daughter has always been high-strung. The wine helped her sleep. I feel sick listening to them justify what they did to us. The way they twist everything to make it sound reasonable, even noble. I wonder how many times I heard these same justifications growing up and accepted them without question. When the judge speaks, his voice cuts through the courtroom like a blade. I've heard enough, he says. The evidence presented today shows not only a sophisticated drug manufacturing operation, but a systematic pattern of child endangerment and abuse. The defendants deliberately incapacitated one child with alcohol alcohol from the age of 10 while grooming the other to participate in their criminal enterprise. He denies bail, citing flight risk and the severity of the charges. As the bailiff leads our parents away, Mom turns to look at us one last time. There's something different in her eyes now, not the calculating coldness from the car that day, but something that might be genuine regret. "I'm sorry," she mouths. Beside me, Emma starts to cry silently, tears streaming down her face as she watches them disappear through a side door. I put my arm around her shoulders, surprised when she leans into me instead of pulling away. Outside the courthouse, reporters cluster with cameras and microphones. Miss Garcia shields us, hustling us toward a waiting car. "What happens now?" I ask as we pull away from the curb. "We'll find you a more permanent placement," she says, "possibly with relatives, if any are suitable." Jake's family offered, I say quietly. His mom told me they'd take us both if we needed a place. Miss Garcia makes a note. "We'll look into that option. For now, let's get you back to the foster home. You both did incredibly well today." Emma stares out the window, her reflection fractured in the glass. "They really thought they were protecting us, didn't they?" she whispers, in their twisted way. I think about Mom's face as she was led away, about Dad's justifications, about the years of lies wrapped in half-truths. I think they convinced themselves they were, I finally say. But that doesn't make it true. The car turns onto the highway, carrying us away from the courthouse and our parents and the only life we've ever known. I don't know what comes next, but for the first time in years, my head is clear enough to face it. 6 months can change everything. That's what I think as I stare at my reflection in Jake's bathroom mirror, barely recognizing the person staring back. My eyes are clear now, focused in a way they never were before. The perpetual puffiness around my face has disappeared, replaced by sharper angles and healthier skin. The constant tremor in my hands is gone too, though sometimes when I'm stressed, I still catch myself checking my fingers for shakes. "Hurry up in there," Jake's voice calls through the door. "We're gonna be late for school." School. Real school, with classrooms and teachers and other kids my age. Not the homeschooling program my parents insisted on, which I now understand was just another way to keep us isolated. I splash water on my face and grab my backpack from the hook on the bathroom door. Jake's mom, Linda, she insists I call her Linda, is in the kitchen making lunches when I come downstairs. She smiles when she sees me, warm and genuine in a way my own mother's smiles never were. "Big day today," she says, handing me a brown paper bag. "First day of finals week. Nervous?" I shrug, but there's a flutter in my stomach that wasn't there before. A little. "The math might kill me." "You'll do fine," she assures me, brushing a strand of hair from my face with casual affection. "You've worked so hard to catch up." That's an understatement. After the court placed me with Jake's family, I had to start from scratch academically. Years of wine-fogged education left massive gaps in my knowledge. While my peers were learning algebra and world history, I'd been struggling to focus through a haze of alcohol. The first few weeks of tutoring were humiliating. I couldn't even multiply fractions without help. Jake appears in the doorway, car keys jingling in his hand. "Come on, we've got that pre-test review for chemistry first period." In the car, Jake chatters about summer plans and college applications while I stare out the window. We pass my old house on the way to school, habit, not necessity, and I feel the familiar tightening in my chest. The for sale sign has been there for months, the house empty since the police finished their investigation. Sometimes I wonder who will buy it, if they'll ever know what happened behind those walls. "You're seeing Emma today, right?" Jake asks, breaking into my thoughts. I nod. "After school, Miss Garcia's driving me to the treatment center." "Tell her I said hi," he says, pulling into the school parking lot, "and that she still owes me a rematch in Mario Kart." Emma's recovery has been more complicated than mine. While I was placed with Jake's family almost immediately, Emma spent weeks bouncing between foster homes. The psychological evaluation revealed deeper trauma. She'd been actively groomed to join the family business, manipulated in ways I wasn't. When she started having panic attacks and nightmares, they moved her to a residential treatment facility, specializing in trauma recovery. School passes in a blur of review sessions and final preparations. My teachers have been surprisingly understanding about my situation. Most of them know some version of what happened, the alcohol dependency, the neglect, the criminal parents. They don't know everything though. Nobody except Jake and his family know how I still wake up sometimes in the middle of the night, desperately craving wine, my body remembering what my mind is trying to forget. After the final bell, Miss Garcia is waiting in the parking lot, her sensible sedan idling by the curb. She smiles when I slide into the passenger seat. "How was school?" she asks, pulling away from the curb. "Fine, just review stuff for finals." I fidget with my backpack strap. "How's Emma doing?" "Better," Miss Garcia says carefully. "The therapists say she's making real progress. She's been participating in group sessions more." The treatment center is a low, modern building surrounded by gardens and walking paths. Emma is waiting in the visitors' lounge, her hair pulled back in a ponytail that makes her look younger than 17. She hugs me tightly when I approach, something she never would have done 6 months ago. "You look good," she says, stepping back to examine me. "Healthy." "So do you," I tell her, and it's true. The haunted look that followed her through the trial has faded. We sit in a quiet corner of the lounge, away from the other patients and their visitors. Miss Garcia gives us privacy, retreating to the reception area with her ever-present clipboard. "I heard about the sentencing," Emma says quietly. 15 years minimum. I nod. "Our parents' trial concluded 2 weeks ago, resulting in multiple convictions for drug manufacturing, distribution, and child endangerment. The judge had been particularly harsh about the alcohol abuse, citing it as one of the most egregious forms of child abuse he'd seen in his career. "Have you talked to them?" I ask, though I already know the answer. Emma shakes her head. "Not since the trial. My therapist says I can write letters when I'm ready, but," she trails off, picking at a loose thread on her sleeve. "I'm not ready." "Me neither," I admit. "The weird thing is," Emma continues, her voice dropping to almost a whisper, "sometimes I still miss them." "Is that crazy? After everything they did?" "It's not crazy," I say, thinking of the good moments, rare but real, when our parents seemed like normal parents. Dad teaching me to ride a bike, Mom making chicken soup when I had the flu. They were still our parents. My therapist says that's the hardest part of recovery from family trauma, learning to hold two opposing truths at once, that they hurt us terribly and that we still love them. We sit in silence for a moment, the weight of those opposing truths heavy between us. "I'm getting discharged next month," Emma says suddenly. "They think I'm ready for outpatient treatment." My heart leaps. "That's amazing. Where will you go?" "That's what I wanted to talk to you about." Emma takes a deep breath. "Jake's parents offered to take me too. They've already started the paperwork to become my foster parents. You'd live with us? I can't keep the excitement from my voice. Emma nods, a small smile playing at her lips. If that's okay with you, I don't want to intrude on your new life. Are you kidding? It's more than okay. I grab her hands. We should be together, Em. We're family. That's the other thing, she says, her expression growing serious. I've been thinking a lot about what family really means. For so long, I thought it was about loyalty, keeping secrets, protecting the business, staying together no matter what. But that's not it at all. What is it then? It's about care, she says simply. Real family cares about your well-being more than anything else. Jake's parents reported mom and dad to authorities because they cared about what was happening to you. That was more like family than anything our actual parents ever did. Her words hit me with unexpected force. I think about Jake's mom checking on me during those first terrible nights of withdrawal, sitting beside my bed with cool washcloths and gentle reassurance. I think about Jake's dad teaching me to drive, patient and calm, even when I nearly crashed into the mailbox. I think about Jake himself, never once treating me like a charity case or damaged goods. You're right, I say, blinking back sudden tears. Family is who takes care of you, who sees you drowning and jumps in to save you instead of handing you another drink. Miss Garcia appears at the edge of the lounge, tapping her watch to indicate our time is almost up. Emma hugs me again before I leave, holding on longer this time. 6 more weeks, she whispers. Then we start over, together. In the car ride home, I watch the scenery pass by the treatment center fading in the distance, Jake's neighborhood growing closer. For the first time in my life, I'm moving towards something instead of being carried along in someone else's current. You seem thoughtful, Miss Garcia observes. I was just thinking about family, I say. About how sometimes you find it in the strangest places. She smiles knowingly. The Millers are good people. You and Emma are lucky to have them. We are. I agree, thinking of the dinner waiting for me, the homework help that will follow, the genuine interest in my day that I'll receive. But they're lucky to have us too. And for the first time, I actually believe that's true.